Hi, you've reached Bob. I'm not at my desk right now. Please leave a message after the beep. Beep. How many salespeople have ever heard that daunting message when you made a call? Raise of hands. Anyone? Okay, the rest of you are marketers. How many of you want me to switch to Hebrew right now? Raise of hands. Anyone? No? Everyone's okay with English? Let's keep going with English. Okay, so here's a few factoids some of you may know. Most salespeople will give up after 3 to 5 call attempts, but most leads need 10 times that to catch them. Not most, but many of them need 10 times that. So you've spent all that money, like Ariel and others have told us, to bring all those leads into the funnel. They get a couple of calls, we can't catch them on the phone, and that's where they get left pretty much. So what if you knew exactly when to call to get the lead on the phone? You'd be closing a lot more business, right? So let's talk about that today. And in the next 10 minutes or so, what I want to do is take you through 3 short, sweet stories, all of them with a happy end, I promise. Okay, just like in the fairy tales. I want to talk about 3 mini case studies where we had the dilemma of when should the salespeople pick up the phone, who should they call, and when. And I'm going to show you 3 different approaches that we took at different companies I worked for to solve that problem with creative solutions, all of them using marketing technology that's readily available to you all. Okay, so let's start. Clicker works. Great. Let's talk Coca-Cola, small company. They make sugared water. I'm sure you've heard. Here's the thing. Clicker's playing up. Okay, here's the thing. If one lead visits your website and interacts with a piece of content, that's not worth very much to you, right? Hopefully all of you are getting hundreds, or if not thousands or more, of content downloads. You may consider them names or leads or even MQLs, but the fact that a single lead interacted with a piece of content doesn't tell you very much, right? But what if 3 people from the same company downloaded either the same piece of content or 3 different pieces of content from your website in the last week? Wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't that be something you'd consider acting on? And so that's the dilemma that we had, because we noticed at one point, this is a case study from Middeza Panaya, we noticed that in order to score leads individually, we were missing something major. And that something major was that we were missing the interaction of different contacts within the same account with our content. So if we needed a single lead to download, say, 5 pieces of content or look at 5 different web pages before we talk to him, what about a week where 3 people from Coca-Cola maybe visit our website, but everyone visits 1 or 2 pages, so we don't act upon that? And that doesn't make sense, right? So here's the solution that we came up with. We used Marketo and Leadlander. We used Leadlander, which is a reverse IP lookup tool. There are many others. And we used that and set up an alert, so when 3 or more people from the same company IP looked at our website or downloaded our content, Marketo would shoot out an alert to the account owner in sales dev, telling him, hey Mark, 3 or more people from Coca-Cola just looked at our website in the last 7 days. Maybe it's time you gave them a call and see what they're looking for. Okay, pretty cool, right? So this is what we did, and this is something most of us usually miss because we're looking at the individual contact level, which many times doesn't reach the threshold that we're looking for to show interest in our product or our services. So the result of doing this is that indeed, as soon as the 3rd lead within the same 7 days from the same IP in Coca-Cola visited our website, we shot out an alert to Mark. Mark looked at his Salesforce account, saw who the decision maker is. It doesn't even matter who the people on the website were, as long as you talk to the decision maker, because you know that he just sent all his influencers to research our solution online, so you know they're probably getting close to being ready to buy. Gave them a call, scheduled a sales call, and an opportunity was created. So that was our solution for taking advantage of being able to know when there's a lot of commotion around our website or content from different people within the same client account. So that's one quick story on Coca-Cola. Here's a second story on a summer vacation. I'm sure all of you in marketing and sales know the situation, okay? It's the summertime, it's the end of the quarter. We're not meeting our numbers of MQLs or setting up sales calls or whatever your performance target is. Why? Because people are not at their desks. They're on vacation with their families. Very few are at their desks. Our conversion rate or our connect rate when making calls is much, much lower than at other times in the year. Sounds familiar? Okay. So what do? So here's what we came up with. This is a real situation. We were a day before the close of the quarter. It was summertime. People were not picking up the phones. We were not making our numbers. We had to do something radically different, and we had about 6 hours to do it before the quarter ended. True story. Here's what we did. We took one of our content pieces, which we knew had a historically very high open rate. If you've been following Panaya content in recent years, you might recognize in this case it was the SAP salary survey, which we became very famous for. It had an extremely high open rate, but we didn't care about the actual content in this case. All we wanted to know is that this is something that we knew we had a killer subject line, that we had a lot of people to open it. We blasted that out to all the list of the leads that we were trying to get on the phone. Now what happened is, in this case as well, and as we expected, it had a very high open rate. We set up Marketo, unlike in other campaigns, that we don't want to know every time a lead opened a piece of content. That would be crazy, right? You'd be getting lots of alerts. So we usually just score the leads or keep nurturing them. In this case, we set up an immediate alert. We called it the at-desk alert. What it basically did, it just said, hey Mark, Bob just opened your piece of content, the SAP salary survey, and he opened it on his mobile phone or he opened it on his desktop. We knew this because Marketo lets you get insights on what kind of email client your client is using right now to open your content. What this allowed us to do is to send a link to the Salesforce contact directly to the sales owner at Panaya, telling him, hey Mark, Bob just opened this piece of content on his mobile. Here's Bob's mobile phone, call him now. He's looking at his mobile right now, reading your piece of content. Or, hey Mark, John just opened this piece of content on his desktop. Here's his office number, call him now. Even if it's 9 p.m., we know he's at his desk right now reading this piece of content. And that's what we did. So the result of this is dozens of alerts fired within minutes of sending out the campaign, because most of the people were out of the office, but many of them were still reading email. Some of them at the office, some of them on their mobile. The sales dev got the alert saying, Mark is at his desk, call him now. Bob is on his mobile, call him now on his mobile number. We sent the link within the Marketo alert, so the salesperson didn't have to do anything except click the link, bring up the contact, and call the number. We were seriously creeping out people, okay? We're like, Mark, I know it's 9 p.m. I know you're at your desk right now. How are you enjoying our white paper this evening? So that's actually how this call started. It was a little creepy, but the bottom line was we made our numbers. We caught enough people that day to interest them in a demo call the following week or once they got back from vacation, and we scheduled enough numbers to make our quarterly goal. So that's a very, very cool trick, which we used repeatedly again when we need to crunch the numbers and we needed to catch people during Christmas, New Year's, summer vacation, you name it. Don't use this too often because it does creep people out and it does shoot out a lot of alerts. You need to get the entire team on board and tell them what's going to happen so that they're sitting at their desks with their fingers on their dialing finger on the phone, waiting for the alerts so they know whether to call the people at their mobile or at their desktop. Bottom line, it does work. Okay? My third and final story is about a trade show follow-up. Okay? I'm going to give you the condensed version of the story here, and then at the end I'm going to share a resource with you if you want to continue reading it, the full story, just because of the time constraints today. So here's the story. I'm sure all of you know the situation. You get back from a trade show, hopefully with a clicker that works better than mine. You get back from a trade show, you brought back hundreds of leads or thousands of leads because you've been to my trade show webinar and you know how to do this. You come back with thousands of leads, and your salespeople say, well, what do you want me to do with 3,000 leads? I'm not going to call them all now. Sort them out. Tell me which ones have a good chance of buying from us, and I'll call them. I can't call 3,000. I can't even call 300 leads. Where do I begin? Okay, sounds familiar, right? And then sales, a month later, tell you basically marketing brought them junk. We have no one to call. Marketing says, we brought you pure gold. You guys just don't know how to sell. We've all been there, right? So here's what we did. We set up a campaign. The first business day after the trade show, we sent out a piece of content that was created specifically for the visitors at that trade show. The subject line included the name of the trade show they just attended. It included a mention of the giveaway that we gave them at the booth. There was a lot of context there, so there would be a very high open rate and engagement rate. Now, what we did there is we offered them a piece of content which we suspected would be very valuable to the people that we just met at the show because it really addressed their needs as we understood them from someone who visited the show. Now, in order for them to click here and download that asset, which many of them did, I'll show you exactly how many in just a minute, many of them clicked to download the asset because we sounded familiar. We said, hey Bob, it was great meeting you at the booth last week. We hope your kid enjoyed the t-shirt. So it sounded all very familiar and within context, and the timing was great. Once they downloaded, of course, we're in marketing, okay, we're not in this for the science or for the art, so they had to answer 3 qualifying questions, which told us a lot about their business, which we may have missed when we talked to them at the booth. So we asked them 3 qualifying questions in order for them to download that valuable piece of asset, and since we caught them at the exact moment where they really wanted that piece of asset, because it came from a reputable source, which they recognized from last week's show, and we designed it to provide a lot of value, they really were in a situation with motivation to give us the answers to those 3 qualifying questions. Now, those questions are exactly what our salespeople wanted to know in order to prioritize those leads. What's the size of your business? Are you using one of our competitors? How many orders you take a month? Whatever your qualifying questions are, imagine you can just ask them all your leads at the same time without having to call them. So if you catch them at the right moment, like we did with a piece of content the first business day after the show, you might also see results like this. We had a 58% open rate for the email sent the day after the show. We had a 21% click-through rate on the email from people who decided that, yes, this was a valuable piece of content that they wanted. And when they reached the landing page, 48% of them answered our 3 qualifying questions to download that piece of content. You can already guess the end result. The end result was that for a huge amount of leads, we had all the information that our salespeople needed in order to prioritize them. When our salespeople got into the office the first day after the show, they already had a view waiting for them in the CRM system saying, these are all the leads who answered your qualifying questions, and I've rated them according to the formula that we set internally, saying these are the ones with the answers that you want to be talking to right now. That first evening after the show, we made our first inside sales over the phone to the leads that answered the qualifying questions that morning from the show. Okay? If you want to read the full story, and I'm giving this all away, the full story on the email template that we used, the content asset that we designed, what the landing page looked like, and a very detailed post-mortem of how we built this campaign, go to bit.ly/ugly-campaign. Again, that's bit.ly/ugly-campaign. You'll know why it's an ugly campaign when you read the post. And there you'll get all the details with the full text. I'm not hiding anything. It's all there. And I want to thank you very much.